In this video, I am going to recap the Woodlands Marathon. Now, I am a talker, so I'm going to keep this brief, real brief. Yes, please, I have a lot of Kafusi to watch and believe in the run. I'll do my best. And a serious runner, Matt Choi, Floberg, I get it. YouTubers who are a whole lot faster than you. Hey, I got jokes. It's a running channel. Okay, well, I ran a 3:05:26 at the Woodlands Marathon on March the 4th of 2023. For the GoPro play-by-play recap, just click here, I'll leave the video, or I'll put it at the end of the video. 3:05:26. This is a Boston qualifier for me, because while I may look 32, I am actually 43. Okay, on March the 7th, 3 days after the marathon, I did turn 43. But age is just a number. A rather large number. Well, you know 43 is a prime number. Don't say it. Don't. I'm in my prime. The goal was a sub 3. Long story short, I slowed down towards the end. And I have two theories on that. Here are my theories. Theory number one, I only trained for a few weeks. Here's the video, you can click it right there. After my Austin 3M half marathon, I had 6 weeks in between that and race day. I had 1 week of recovery where I was still kind of flushing out the legs, 2 peak weeks of 65 and 66 miles, and then a 3-week taper. So simply put, I did not possess the aerobic endurance to run a sub 3-hour marathon. Surprise! There's a reason why marathon training blocks tend to be 16 to 20 weeks long. If runners could get away with running marathon training for only a few weeks and still be able to perform at a high level or their full potential, they would already be doing it. If I was able to do a Seth James D'Amour impersonation, I would tell you there are no shortcuts in endurance running. Right there, right there, right there. Theory number two, why I slowed down. I'm pretty sure the first one was accurate. Theory number two, but first, some context. The pace plan. The pace plan was to run the first half in between 90 and 91 minutes, and the second half of the race in 1 hour and 29 minutes. The mental plan. Okay, I don't know about you, but before every race, I mentally like to prepare by thinking about all the possible scenarios that I may encounter on race day. Some people will consider this overthinking. I believe the medical term is anxiety. For example, scenario A, the dream day. That's like I get the deep sleep overnight, the supercompensation happens, I wake up, my resting heart rate is 5 beats lower than usual. I go out for a run, it's effortless. I can't believe how fast I'm running and my heart rate is staying low. This actually happened to me on the Tuesday before the race. I woke up, I went for a run, my resting heart rate was 43 and it's normally 48. My first mile was at a 7:30 pace in my MAF. The 5-mile MAF was a 7:40. And then I did 2 marathon pace miles and I ran a 6:26 mile and a 6:48. That day did not happen for me on race day. Scenario number B. Scenario B is kind of like the most likely to happen scenario given what shape I think I'm in based off of my training. So when I was running marathon pace effort, I was landing a few seconds behind 6:52 a mile, which is what I would need to run for the sub 3. So I'm thinking I'm gonna go out in the first half, keep my heart rate under control, land somewhere between 90 minutes and 91 minutes, meaning about 1 to 5 seconds per mile slower than what my target pace is. And then in the second half, start landing 1 to 5 seconds in front of my target pace until I get to about mile 19, 20, and then I'm gonna let it rip. Leave it out on the table, go for it, sprint to win, dive for the loose balls, all the cliches. Be the change. Scenario C, the weatherman says it's going to be 45 degrees and cool on race day, but the weatherman sucks and it's actually 68 degrees and about 100% humidity. So by mile 5, my heart rate is already in threshold. I've got to decrease my pace by 10 to 15 seconds per mile. I drink 3 gallons of H2O and I throw up a prayer to Yahweh for a 3:05:00. So out of scenario A, B, and C, which one of those happened on race day? Obviously D, none of the above.
My heart rate at race pace is in the 170s, so I'm gonna have to adjust. Mile 4, 6:54. average pace 6:57. Heart rate is a little bit high for where I want to be, so gotta chill. Just make it to 13.1, close to 130. Then we'll see what I can do in the second half.
So why was my heart rate a little high? Well, the weatherman did not suck. He was accurate. It was 45 or 48 degrees. The humidity was 94%, but the dew point was really low. So while it was, I was sweating by mile 5, look at me, I could still breathe. So I don't think that made my heart rate go up. Also, I wasn't very nervous. I know the race in the area. I ran it last year. It's a smaller race. I don't have a lot of race nerves. Here's where I think the culprit is. It was likely the cold that I was coming down with, or the allergies. I don't know if that's a thing. Seems like it would be a thing. Pretty sure it's a thing. So I wrote down my heart rate and my splits and kind of how they correspond to each other. For context, I want my heart rate to be in the low to mid 160s, well short of threshold, which for me is around 173. That's when I really start flirting with it. So mile 2, my heart rate was a 169 and at a 7:07 pace. This is 15 seconds off of where I should be. So I moved that for mile 3 and 4 to a 6:52 just to make sure I was on pace. And my heart rate was a 173 and a 171. So I hit sub 3 pace, but my heart rate was too high too early on. So my strategy from mile 5 to mile 12 became really try to exist in that marathon pace heart rate. That's where I was, in the higher 160s, low 170s. I knew this effort was going to get me around 6:52. It's okay if I land on the backside of it. But really, I knew with the cool weather, I could maintain my heart rate. It wasn't going to drift and I could stay on par. The heart rate was a little higher, but I was still where I liked. Ultimately, my splits were from mile 6, 650, mile 7, 651, 657, 659, 702, 658. So my overall average pace was still around a 657, which is good. It was about 5 seconds behind, which, if you multiply that times 12 or 13 miles, it's about a minute. So on the back half, my goal was to run 5 seconds in front of 652 and run a 129. But at mile 12, I got a little anxious and I decided to go ahead and pick up the pace. My mile splits from mile 12 to 18 were 648, 651, 644, 651, 650, 651, 641. So with those splits, all those combined, that gave me about 25 seconds. I made up about 25 seconds. Now I'm looking down at my watch and my overall pace is a 6:57 going into that surge of 6 miles or 7 miles. And then I look down and it's 6:54, teetering on 6:53. My overall estimated time in the app was, according to my wife, back on pace for a 3:01. So everything was looking really good. And then a meteor hit. No. And then I slowed down because of theory number 2. Oh yeah, I forgot you had another theory. Theory number 2, I was too dehydrated, and that's why I slowed down. You see, something did not happen at mile 13 that was supposed to happen, that happened for me on mile 13 in Chicago, which is my wife was supposed to hand me a bottle of Scratch super high carb with a packet of Element, stirred, shaken, well shaken, and it didn't happen. You see, my wife is my elite fluids table, and I mean that in the sexiest way possible. Don't make this uncomfortable. Please like and subscribe. Much better. All right, this is important to note for the Woodlands Marathon from a spectator point of view. If you or your loved ones are running in the marathon or you're trying to watch them, the accessibility and the easement of the course sucks. There are no scooters, there are no bikes, there's no public transportation. The course isn't really closed off. There's still traffic going down. So my wife and kids were literally stuck in traffic as I was running. She called me to tell me that she wouldn't be going to be able to make it with the kids, which was sad. And then I started to laugh because I wish I would have been recording it, like me taking a call from my wife as I'm passing people up, where are we going to get tacos after this? Is the taco joint over there still open? I'm just passing people, because this was in the back half, when I didn't see her on 13, and she called me trying to get to me on 14, and then she was like, I don't think I'm going to make it. So I lied and I told her it was fine. It was fine. And truth be told, it actually was fine. It wasn't that big of a deal until I hit like mile 16. There's a stretch from like mile 16 out back and around to 18 or 19 where the sun was out, there's not a cloud in the sky, there's no shade cover, and it's just baking people. That's when I saw my first walker. So by the time I hit mile 19, I was just really willing my legs to move and my body to go, and it just wasn't happening. And then I read an article that said this is usually what happens when you get dehydrated. However, it also probably happens when you don't have the aerobic endurance to carry yourself that far or that distance. So it could be either one or both. Maybe both of them is happening at the same time. The splits for the last few miles from mile 19 was a 7:02, mile 20 was a 6:59. Mile 21, I started slipping in a 3:10 pace there with the 7:11. Mile 22, 7:19, mile 23, 7:20, mile 24, 7:16. And then by 25 and 26, I was doing the shuffle. I hit a 7:40 and a 7:36. I was really just trying not to go into 10-minute miles so that I could still hit a Boston qualifier. Now the last little 0.2 or 0.4, it says 7:11, but I hit the lap button and it was actually a 6:36 because, surprise, my wife and kids did actually end up right there at the end, and then they were able to run with me, which was really awesome. My son Miles told my wife that he was going to run with me, and she's like, "Are you sure you're going to keep up? He's pretty fast." And he said, "Well, yeah, he's already run 26 miles and I haven't run any, so I think I can hang with him." And he absolutely did. He crushed it. I'm so thankful he did not get arrested and that there wasn't security and we didn't have to bail him out of juvie. So, hey, turns out the crowd support's wonderful. What were my biggest takeaways? Number one, I need a longer training plan. Two, I could probably hydrate a little bit better. Number three, the joy in my heart. I said this after Chicago, I don't take the results very seriously. As you can tell, there's not a whole lot in life that I do take seriously. But I'm not a results-oriented person. I used to be very result-oriented. I do care about trying to hit a goal of sub 3, but it doesn't determine my emotional well-being. Would I be angry? Am I supposed to be sad or mad, determined because I did hit sub 3? Or am I supposed to be super ecstatic and on a cloud and joyful that I qualified for Boston? It's like, well, you know, I either trained for it and put in the work, or I didn't, and then I learned some lessons and then I apply them. I mean, it just seems complicated. I just was grateful to be able to run the marathon, and also that my family, most importantly, my family, I'm going to put a meme up of Fast and the Furious. Family. Grateful that my family could be a part of the experience and sharing it. All right, next video, I'm returning to shoe reviews. I've got If I Could Only Buy One, the Battle of the Threes, the Endorphin Speed 3, the Nova Blast 3, the Rebel V3. I have put 100 miles in each of these shoes, and now they're going to battle to the death, and we're going to get one winner. Thank you for watching. Love you. Goodbye.